your beautiful line about being a citizen or an afterthought of history, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, just in terms of citizenry and also in terms of your life as a poet.
The line is not afterthought of the state. You still want the answer to that? Well, I think it's almost self-evident that somebody becomes or is a citizen of the United States. But African Americans are second citizens, and a lot of other people too, in the world's great democracy and so on. So the poem is about changing or surrendering a passport to, it's about becoming American totally legally, which I am unable to do. I think you can have two passports. I'm not even sure if I'm interested in the idea of that. And I think it came to the point where I thought, well, no, I don't want it. If it means that I have to give up one for the other, then I don't want the other. That means if I sign on, will I become a citizen? And to become a citizen of the United States and be black is a secondary condition. I wasn't interested in that. As arrogant as it may sound, I still have my private dignity. So this is true, of course, to the Algerian in France as well. It's true of, other countries that go to the Empire's center and find that they have to. It's a common occurrence of what's happening in the contemporary world, and that's basically what I mean. The image of the signature is the signature of the citizenship. It's like if you make a note, it's as if the republic makes a note to itself that it must look after its secondary citizens. So that's like signing on for a passport or signing on for identity. It's like you making a note, the empire makes a note to itself. Remember to look after X or Y.
I was wondering, do you think one of your greatest legacies in literature would be promoting or provoking social change in regards to racial issues?
There are a lot of great statements that have been made about poets. Shelley called them the unacknowledged legislators. There are other names. It is not that the poet, and I don't want to include myself in that list, are very great people who have been tortured and persecuted by tyranny. And who, even if they are imprisoned, can't be stopped from, say, memorizing the work that they keep in their heads, or writing on toilet paper, or writing something. Anyway, they can preserve what they write. Sam to Mandelstam, they were a great Russian poet, and other people. So it's natural for tyrants to get rid of poets as soon as they can, because of the influence that they have. Poets are not by instinct heroes, I don't think. I think they're by instinct cowards. And Auden said a very good thing. He said, well, if there's a dictatorship, don't worry about it. Just write a poem about flowers, but what you really mean is an attack on the dictatorship. So you can save your ass and be a poet at the same time. Very sound advice. Because then you flatter the tyrant and you give up yourself and then you're shot or something. Whereas if you bore into it, maybe it's better. I don't see myself feeling more than any human being with an average sense of compassion. Certainly, you look at the injustice that happens all over, not only to black people, to white people, to just injustice. And what is stirred in you is something that everybody feels. It's just that you have the luck to be able to articulate it. And whether it is your duty or not, yes, it is your duty to put it down because at least there's a record of the injustice that's done. But I think you have to be balanced. And I think the core of everything is, this may sound very arrogant, but it's to look at the essential of mankind. Why are you having a war about how you pronounce God's name? It's less than childish. You throw bombs at each other and you do whatever you want. Because I call God Allah and you call him Jehovah. Or, do the absurdities that are there in formal religion, and which lead to, violence, extreme violence. So the question is not a question, it's a reality. And it was said very finally and lucidly by Horace. This is the old thing of Homo lupus homini. Man is wolf to man. That's the basic truth. Men treat each other the way wolves treat each other.
Thank you.
What I'd like to know is what kind of encouragement and support is given in today's Caribbean, the English Caribbean society. That's for the artists. Encourages encouragement and support to artists in the Caribbean.
I've been arguing for I don't know how many hundreds of years, that's not my age, but I feel like, about what could be done in the Caribbean to help artists. What's happening now, for instance, in St. Lucia is a lot of hotels are going up, and a lot of hotels are going up all over the Caribbean. And what is not being done is some kind of tax or some kind of deal that could be made with these hoteliers who mainly are people who own stuff from abroad, to say, yes, go ahead, build a hotel, but give a section of what you build towards the government so that they can build a museum that we don't have, or a theater that we don't have, or, things like that. So it's enraging, but nothing has changed, basically. The pathetic things that happen that are supposed to be handouts to artists generally come from abroad. The government depends on the generosity of foreigners to help its own art. I know a brilliant young actress in St. Lucia who got a scholarship to Jamaica, but she had to buy her own books. It's only in the Caribbean that kind of obscenity happens. By contrast to the kind of genius that you have, or the talent of this young man here tonight, and there's no policy, and things, it's so old, such an old argument that I've had. It's how you think. And the Caribbean thinks like everybody else before it, and that's my disappointment with it, that it didn't think. It didn't have the originality of thought to say that, a good museum is as good as a road or whatever, or highway. And you can always have reasons for not doing things in government. You can always put art as not being necessary. And my bitter disappointment about Caribbean government is that it has never had a creative impulse in terms of creating a society that gives more room to the arts. All of them. Disgusting, basically. Of course, they pay a lot of attention to sport, cricket, right? So, cricket, carnival, yay, yay, yay. You know what I mean?
Let me introduce to you Dr. John Kelly, who is my partner in the initiative, the Caribbean African Diasporic Initiative. She will offer some closing remarks.
Thanks very much, Melinda. And I'd like to thanks Steve.
I'd like to thank everyone here today. It's been a very memorable event, and I want to thank you all for turning out and sharing this time with us for what will become, certainly for me, and I'm hoping for you, a very memorable initiative and event and an experience. Memories are some things that we take with us and draw on in the future, and that's what I feel as though Derek Walcott has certainly constructed and created here. Before we move on, I'd like to also acknowledge a few people who have been very instrumental in terms of developing this event and organizing it. The first one I want to start with are what we are calling the workshop group, the group who've helped to assist with doing the flyers, getting the flowers organized, etc., etc. And specifically, I'd like to identify Amber and Tara and Catherine and Michelle as very instrumental in that process. When we come to an event like this, it's as though it's easy, it's just happened, but in fact, there's a lot of hard work that's gone into the event. And just by listening to Derek Walcott, it's evident it was well worth all that hard work. As well, I'd like to acknowledge Donna Coombs-Montrose, who's sitting in the front, who in a sense represents our sort of aesthetic Caribbean champion. And so the little touches which have made this very much a Caribbean event is partly through Donna's imagination and initiative, and I'd like to acknowledge that work as well. I'd also like to thank very much Stephen Sleeman for, first of all, sending out the email that led to the development of this event. And I'd also like to thank Melinda Smith, because I think we're very lucky when we live with someone who has an idea and doesn't just have an idea, but actually brings it to fruition. That's what makes the change within any society. And I really acknowledge Melinda's hard work. 10,000 emails, which I will be glad to delete from my file now. But she's been absolutely instrumental in organizing this event, and I want you, when you see her, to tell her thanks and how much you appreciate it. It's very significant that Derek Walcott is here as well today as a stellar academic and a stellar Caribbean person. He really is an outstanding soul. When I said to my sister in London that Derek Walcott was coming to Edmonton, she says, "Whoa, he's a big name." So she's not easily impressed, my sister Bev, so I was so whoa. So with him coming today, it also highlights and profiles issues around the Caribbean. And Melinda and I and Donna had been trying to work together to get the administrators, if they're here, at the University of Alberta to actually take on board issues around the Caribbean and African diasporas. It's an initiative that we're working with. It's a bit like the Russians. We have a 5-point plan, but we hope it will work. And the idea of that is to showcase the Caribbean. And Derek Walcott, I'd like to thank you very much. I loved the way you, interacted with Cecil on the drums. That was excellent as well. I really appreciate you being here with us. And you're the last one that I wish to thank. And I think it's an amazing experience that we've had here. I loved your reading, and I also like, even though I don't know you well, I quite like your feistiness. I think people should be feisty. That's what life is for. And with that, I'd like to give you a nice little present. Well, it's not that little, actually. There's two of them. Melinda, would you like to give the first one and hold it up so as everyone can see what a beautiful thing it is? And I also have another one that I'll pass on.